Hi, everyone, and welcome to our class. As we go through this wonderful educational experience together, it helps to understand my approach to learning and achieving success, especially in a class that emphasizes skill building. The approach I take is grounded in two perspectives: Carol Dweck's 2007 book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, which when I read it, exemplified and expounded on the approach that I had already adopted in my classes, and my life for that matter. It's definitely worth a read. And the levels of competence that have been attributed to Abraham Maslow. Now let's start with Dr. Dweck's book, where she identifies two mindsets, the fixed and growth mindset. Briefly, the fixed mindset is based on the belief that who you are is carved in stone. Your intelligence, creativity, personality, and so on are fixed traits. You either have them or you don't, and if you don't, you can't or don't want to develop them. A growth mindset, on the other hand, is based upon the belief that you can, with effort, cultivate who you are. Dweck states that everyone can change and grow through application and experience. People with a fixed mindset feel they must constantly prove themselves and tend to avoid criticism as they view it as attacking them personally. So oftentimes they avoid trying anything new. After all, they don't want to be proven wrong, even to themselves. People with a growth mindset, however, value learning and effort. Those who truly believe they can improve at something are more motivated to learn and practice. Rather than viewing criticism as an attack, they view it as valuable and something they can learn and improve from. Now, that's not to say that criticism doesn't sting or take time to process, but as Mark Twain is credited as saying, good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from making bad decisions. This mindset gives you the justification for persevering, even if it is difficult and you seem to be at a plateau. While Dr. Dweck's book, which I am definitely oversimplifying, discusses these mindsets as if they are black and white, our mindsets often vary from area to area. For example, I'm always ready to learn new things and often willing to look stupid in the process, but I tend to view my inability to do the splits as fixed. I'm just not that flexible, and that is definitely not a photo of me. So while I don't believe that a growth mindset can overcome anything, my willingness to try and learn from experience has served me well over the years, and I believe it can serve you well too. Another well-known quote, this time attributed to Henry Ford, is, "If you think you can do a thing or you think you can't do a thing, you're right." The second approach, credited to Abraham Maslow, goes by a variety of names, such as levels of self awareness or 4 levels for learning any new skill. Regardless of the name, it demonstrates that we go through stages to move from incompetence to competence. In this model, you start off incompetent, but you are unaware that you are incompetent. So the first stage is unconscious incompetence. You may never have been exposed to a skill or knowledge, or if you have, you may not think it is important enough to pay attention to. Once you become aware that you are incompetent, you move to the next stage, conscious incompetence. Now you recognize your incompetence, but you're still incompetent. Now, what moves you from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence? There are at least 3 ways. The first is what I'll call the outcome. You do something and realize that it didn't come out the way you wanted it to. Think about the first time you cooked something and the result was, well, not exactly what you thought it would be. Another method is feedback or criticism. Someone tells you, nicely or otherwise, and that may sting a bit, or you may shrug it off as not correct. Still, another method is observing someone else doing what you're doing, or someone else doing something different. Ah, now I see, you think. Depending upon how important it is to you to acquire this new knowledge or skill, you may stop right there. There are lots of skills that I know that I'm incompetent at, speaking Spanish, for example, and am still incompetent at. To get from incompetence to competence, you first move from conscious incompetence to conscious competence. Now you understand or know how to do something, but you have to concentrate while you are doing it. It's not second nature. What moves you from conscious incompetence to conscious competence? Well, many immediately say practice. And while that is true, it's not exactly right. Something has to happen first. You have to be motivated to practice or improve. Now, you may be motivated by need. If I were to move to a Spanish speaking country, I would be more inclined to work on my Spanish. Or you may be motivated by a perceived benefit. If I knew Spanish, I could amaze my friends and be a good role model for my children. and maybe get a bump in salary. Or you may be motivated by interest or an internal desire. I just want to get better at speaking Spanish because I find it interesting or I want to learn. And perhaps you are motivated by dissatisfaction. I'm not happy that I'm not speaking Spanish well. For the most part, though, to become competent, you have to want to be competent. After you've practiced enough that your skill has become second nature, you move to unconscious competence. Now you are competent and you don't have to think about what you're doing while you are doing it. In fact, you can do it while you're thinking about or doing something else. This visual model implies that you spend the same amount of time in each step, but that's not true. And it also implies that once you complete one stage, you automatically progress to the next stage. But there can often be setbacks and plateaus, as any athlete will tell you. And of course, these same mindsets, the growth mindset and the understanding that we go through stages on our way to improvement and mastery, can apply well beyond just achieving competence. We can apply these mindsets to this class, and indeed life, by considering the following. Acknowledge or recognize that you may not currently be competent, and that's okay. And you may be competent in some areas and not others. You are not expected to be perfect, and that is very likely an unrealistic expectation to have. It sets you up for failure, so you may be reluctant to try something new. Persevere. Don't be discouraged. Recognize that competency and mastery may take time, and be willing to put in that time. You may have to take small steps to get to where you want to go, and like many dieters, you may backslide sometimes. Find something to motivate yourself to improve, which will give you a reason to practice, take risks, and seek out information and feedback. Speaking of feedback, welcome and encourage feedback and help from others as well as yourself. Examine what you are doing with a critical eye towards improvement, not with a critical eye looking to beat yourself up over the not so competent aspects of what you are doing. Define your successes in terms of improvement, not overall mastery. Take pride in improving in at least one area, even if it's a small skill. Now that you're in the right mindset, let's do this and do it well.